tonight are going to be in 2 Samuel, chapters 18 and 19. If you need a Bible, there are Bibles in the back. But if not, you can log in on your phone, or if you brought your own Bible, excellent. While you guys turn there, let me recap what we've been talking about. We're going through the story of David, and currently he is in the midst of a civil war with his son Absalom. Absalom is his, I guess now, oldest son, most likely. Absalom took a lot of time winning the hearts of Israel away and stealing them away from David, and essentially David lost all the support of Israel, and now the only people that he has supporting him are a bunch of foreigners that he had come with him, essentially from the Philistine area. Philistia? Is that where it is? I don't know. But anyway, David fled out the back of Jerusalem while Absalom came into the front of Jerusalem. And while he was leaving, it was not a good time. But there was a couple of guys that talked to him during that time. We're going to finish those stories, wrap those stories up. But one was Ziba. This was Mephibosheth's servant. Mephibosheth is Jonathan's son, so Saul's grandson. But Ziba, Mephibosheth's servant, came and told David that Mephibosheth had betrayed him and abandoned him in his time of trouble. Like I said, we're going to see that story come to a conclusion. And then another guy, a Benjaminite named Shimei, was cursing David and throwing rocks and all this stuff at him as David was fleeing Jerusalem. We'll see that story conclude as well. Both those characters come back tonight. And then chapter 17 had Absalom receiving counsel from two different advisors, one named Ahithophel and one named Hushai. Ahithophel was David's friend but betrayed him, and Ahithophel gave Absalom some pretty good advice, but Absalom didn't heed that advice. Instead, he listened to the advice of this guy named Hushai, who was still loyal to David, and gave Absalom some bad advice that Absalom follows, and this will lead to his demise, as we will see tonight. Let's pray before we get in, and then we'll dive into chapter 18. But God, we thank you for your word. I thank you just for the lessons that we can learn. There are so many things that we can glean from tonight and still apply just from this story. And so just help us see that and learn from that. Help us take these principles, these teachings, and apply them to our lives to make us better. God, ultimately, I thank you that we can see just your love for us by sending your son to die for us, God, and just the greatness of who you are. Just like we sang, how great is our God. You are a great God, and we worship you. And so we just give this time over to you and pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I don't know about you guys. I say spoiler alert a lot, but if you read the title of this chapter, mine says Absalom killed. So hopefully you guys aren't shocked, but he's going to die. All right. So it says this in verse 1 of chapter 18, 2 Samuel. Then David took a count of the people who were with him and appointed them over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. And David sent the people out, and a third under the command of Joab, a third under the command of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third under the command of Ittai the Gittite, the king. So really quick, he broke them up into three different groups. I don't know if it was equal. It seems a third would be equal, so three equal parts. Joab has been his commander for a while, from pretty much the beginning. And then Abishai is Joab's brother. And then Ittai the Gittite, we learned about him while David was fleeing. This guy seemingly just joined the party. And David's like, hey, who are you? Like, you just joined. Like, don't join with me because I'm about to be a rebel and on the run and fleeing. Like, this isn't good. Go and find a place. And Ittai the Gittite just said, hey, I'm with you. Like, I'm going. And so you see here David like honoring him and giving this brand new guy a third of the people to be over, which is pretty cool. Ittai did come with a bunch of people, so he would be over those people. But anyway, so broken into thirds. And the king said, this is David. Again, every time it refers to David, often it says the king, the king, the king. The author is reminding you, who's the king? Not Absalom, it's David. And the king said to the people, I myself will certainly go out with you also. But The people said, "You should not go out. For if in fact we flee, they will not care about us. And if half of us die, they will not care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us. So now it is better that you be ready to help us from the city." Then the king said, "Whatever seems best to you, I will do." So the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by the hundreds and thousands. But the king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, saying, "Deal gently with the young man Absalom for my sake." And all the people heard when the king commanded all the commanders regarding Absalom. So right there at the end, he's saying, hey, when you come across Absalom, remember he's my son, so deal gently with him, a.k.a. don't kill him, like spare his life. And everyone heard that command, right? But David's general, right before that, David's generals recommended that he not go to battle for 3 reasons. Stay back for 3 reasons, and here they are. One is explicitly stated. One, he is extremely valuable. They're not looking for anyone else. They want to kill David, and that's it. They don't care about anyone else, and David's kind of like the main guy. He's, if you're playing capture the flag, he's the flag. If you're playing a certain keep-away game, he's the thing you want to keep away. Right? So he needs to be kept safe. And so they tell him to stay in the city. One, and they don't really say this, but it's just true, he's old at this point. It's like an old man, like, I'm going to track him down, right? David, you're an old guy. Absalom is probably 40 at this time, which means David is probably like 70 at this time. Like, I don't know, Joe, how you would be with a sword, but maybe stay back. That's all I'm saying. Let the young men do the fighting, right? And so he said, stay back and you can rally the troops. You can support us from the city. And then third, it doesn't say this, but David does say this. They knew that David wouldn't have what it takes to end this war, a.k.a. kill Absalom, right? Absalom is the threat. They need to take him out. And they're like, hey, if Absalom comes around, you're probably going to be like, oh, Absalom, I love you. And he just stabs him and kills David, and it's game over, right? So like, you just stay out of it. Let us deal with this, right? I will say this. David heeded the counsel of his generals, which is a good thing, and this makes him a good leader because a good leader surrounds himself with wise counselors and then listens to their advice. A bad leader surrounds himself with counselors, then ignores their advice and just does whatever they want or gets everyone to agree with them and expects no pushback. Wants to surround himself with a bunch of yes men, right? David here demonstrates that he was a good leader because he had good counselors and he listened to their advice. He didn't fight with them. He didn't argue. He just said yes. And so we should be surrounding ourselves with wise people and listening to their advice. David did a good thing right there. Anyway, verse 6. Then the people went out to the field against Israel. That's an interesting thing, right? So David is now fighting against Israel. Again, civil war here. And the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. Verse 7, the people of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David. That was a quick battle, but they were defeated. And the slaughter that day was great, 20,000 men. For the battle there was spread over the whole countryside, and the forest devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. I don't know about you, but when I read that, I think of like all of those fantasy movies or books where the trees start fighting and the animals start coming out. I don't think the trees were fighting, but some people do believe that what it's saying here is like the people were dying in the forest. This was a very treacherous forest. There was potentially like wild animals that were like, hey, there's some people, I'm going to eat them. And a lot of people died because of that. Some people like maybe fell down pits or got trapped. This is not a great place to have a war. But a lot of people died, and the forest actually seemingly killed more people than the sword. But Absalom and his army were defeated. Doesn't seem like much of a battle, but again, that's exactly what was intended. Hushai knew that they would fail and gave this bad advice, trying to fail, and it succeeded in failing. Verse 9, now Absalom encountered the servants of David. Absalom was riding his mule. So some great war monger he is, where he's riding the mule. I don't know about you, but I think of like some just goofy guy riding like Attila the Hun or something, riding a mule. He's not riding a giant horse, a war horse. He's a goofy dude riding a mule. But he must be pretty tall or something. I don't know. The mule, it says, went under the branches of a massive oak, and Then his head, this is Absalom's head, caught firmly in the oak, and he was left hanging between the sky and the earth while the mule that was under him kept going. I don't know about you, but this is somewhat comical to me. So Absalom's riding his mule, looking goofy, probably fleeing. He's like, oh no, come on, giddy up, little donkey, and gets his head stuck. Now, the word there is just top, like his upper part. So it doesn't really know, we don't know if it was his head, his neck, or his hair. A lot of people think it's possibly his hair. If you remember when it introduces Absalom, it said that he was had no blemishes from head to toe, and he had so much hair they had to chop it off once a year, and it was like 5 pounds in weight. I have that problem. That's why I shave my head every day, because I have so much hair, and I don't want to get stuck in a tree. But it seems as though he potentially got stuck in a tree by his hair. We don't know, but that would be somewhat poetic justice of this beautiful man who's all in up about his hair, and then he gets caught by his hair, and there he's hanging. The mule keeps on walking like a dumb mule, and he's like, wait, just hanging there dangling, right? So that's the scene. Now, verse 10. It gets even better. Then a certain man saw him hanging in the tree, just by his head or his hair or whatever, and he informed Joab, saying, behold, I saw Absalom hanging in the oak tree. I'm sure Joab was like, you saw him what? He was where? Then Joab said to the man who had informed him, so behold, you saw him. Why did you not strike him to the ground, strike him there to the ground? It would have been my duty to give you 10 pieces of silver and a belt. He's like, hey, if you would have done that, you would have had a great reward. That would have been a good thing, right? 10 pieces of silver, not a big reward, but good enough. And the belt, think about it as like a championship belt for like wrestling or boxing or something. It's not like, hey, here's a nice belt because your pants are falling down. It's just like a belt of honor is what that means. When I read that, I was like, why does the man need a belt? He's like, anyway. Verse 12. But the man said to Joab, even if I were to receive 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I would not put my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king command you, Abishai and Ittai, saying, protect the young man Absalom for me. So the guy's like, hey, I'm not going to kill the guy. The king said not to kill him. Like, you're crazy. You could give me 1,000,000 pieces of silver. Or he said 1,000 or 10,000. A lot of silver. You can give me a lot of money, and I'm not going to do it because that's going to make me an enemy of the state, and I don't want to be on the bad side of the king. Verse 13, otherwise, if I had dealt treacherously against his life, and there is nothing hidden from the king, then you yourself would have avoided me. Then Joab said, I will not waste my time here with you. So the guy's like, wait, you didn't kill him? Get out of here. You're wasting my time. So he's like, I'm going to go do the job. So he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was still alive in the midst of the oak tree. Then 10 young men who carried Joab's armor gathered around and struck Absalom and killed him. So he got 3 spears to the heart and then stabbed by 10 men. Absalom is dead. He's like dead. Right? There's no coming back from that. Now, you might ask yourself, why is Joab doing this? Like the king directly and specifically said, do not harm Absalom. But if you guys remember back in 2 Samuel chapter 2, Joab was in this battle with Abner, which was Saul's commander at the time. And the battle was going, but then Abner turned around and was like, wait, we should make a truce and let's stop fighting. And Joab's like, okay. I don't know why he did it, but he let Abner live. And instead of killing him, which he could have right there because he had the upper hand, he let him live. And it says in 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 1, that a long war then proceeded between the house of Saul and David. And so Joab's like, hey, last time I let somebody live that was against you, that was a bad thing, and we were at war for a long time. I'm not making that mistake again. So he directly disobeyed David here, thinking he knew best. In many ways, Joab was right. This Absalom was a traitor. He was he was guilty of treason and usurping the king unjustly, and so he thought he did what was best, but this was not the best way. Also, I will say Joab probably wasn't going to take any chances with David, sparing his son, because David has a long history of failing to rightly deal with his rebellious children. Time and time again, David does nothing and lets his children off scot-free. And he's like, not this time, buddy. 3 times in the heart. And so, he wasn't about to let that happen again. So, Absalom is dead. Verse 16. Then Joab blew the trumpet, And the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab restrained the people. And they took Absalom and threw him in a deep pit in the forest and erected over him a very large pile of stones. And so they didn't give him a king's burial or a prince's burial. They just threw him in a pit in the forest and covered it with stones and was like, he's done, he's over, good riddance, right? And all Israel fled, and each to his own tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up for himself a memorial stone, which is in the king's valley, for he said, I have no son to continue my name. So he named the memorial stone after his own name, and it is called Absalom's monument to this day. So this is kind of, again, more poetic justice here in the sense that Absalom it seems as though he was a little bit into himself, a little self-obsessed, and he had erected this monument to himself saying, look how awesome I am. And that stone is kind of paralleled to this pile of stones that he is now in, right? He had this great stone erected for himself, and now he's laying dead under a pile of stones, and that's it. That's the end of the story of Absalom. So again, the irony there is interesting. But says this in verse 19. Then Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, said, please let me run and bring the news that the Lord has freed him from the hand of his enemies. But Joab said to him, you are not the man to bring the news this day, but you shall bring news another day. However, you shall bring no news this day, because the king's son is dead. Essentially, Joab's like, hey, you're not the guy to bring this news. This is bad news. You're a good news bringer. This is bad news. Not today. Don't say anything. Then Joab said to the Cushite, so he's like, I'm going to get this random Cushite guy to go and tell him. Go tell the king what you have seen. So the Cushite bowed to Joab and ran. However, Ahimaaz is like a little puppy. He's like, hey, let me go, right? Have you ever like played fetch and the dog is just like, throw the ball, right? This is Ahimaaz. He's like son of Zadok once more. He's like, hey, whatever happens, just let me run. Please just let me run after the Cushite. So Joab said, why would you run, my son, since you have no messenger's reward for going? Like, you're not going to get anything out of going. Why do you want to do this? And he's like, but whatever happens, I will run. He's like, I'll do it. And so Joab said to him, run. It's like, just go. Get out of here. Go ahead. Have fun. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and passed by the Cushite. So this dude was a fast runner. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. He was fast. He passed the Cushite. Now, David, back to David, was sitting between the two gates, and the watchman went to the roof of the gates by the wall and raised his eyes and looked. And behold, a man was running by himself. So the watchman called out and told the king and said to the king, if he is by himself, there is good news in his mouth. Essentially, like, the whole army isn't retreating. It's just one guy. So if just one guy's coming, it's probably good news, right? If the whole army was coming, they'd be like, hurry, this is bad. Just one guy, we're okay. It goes on to say in verse 26, then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called out to the gatekeeper and said, behold, another man is running by himself. And the king said, this one also is bringing good news. And the watchman said, I think the running form of the first one is like the running form of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. So I don't know how this guy ran, but clearly he was identifiable by his run. He was, again, I don't know if what he did, but he ran in a special way that from far off, it's like, hey, that looks just like how Ahimaaz runs. But he's fast. We do know that. Usain Bolt type of running style, I guess. And the other guy just, I don't know. Anyway, Cushites run silly, I guess. But the king said, this is a good man, and he's coming with good news. So he sees Ahimaaz, Zadok's son. These are good people who brought good news before. David is like, all right, this is good news. 28. Then Ahimaaz called out and said to him, all is well. And he prostrated himself before the king with his face to the ground. And he said, blessed is the Lord your God, who has turned over the men who raised their hands against my lord the king. But the king said, is it well with the young man Absalom? Very interesting, right? He says, hey, it's good news. God has delivered you. And what is the very first thing that David says? But tell me how my son is. I don't blame him here, but he's like, I just want to know what's up with Absalom. Tell me what it is with Absalom, right? And Ahimaaz answered, when Joab sent the king's servant and your servant, I saw great commotion, but I did not know what it was. Right? And so here, Ahimaaz is saying, I don't know. I don't know if he's like playing dumb or if he truly doesn't know, but he says he doesn't know. Then the king said, turn aside and stand here. So he turned aside and stood still. Then behold, the Cushite, the slow guy, finally arrived. And the Cushite said, let my lord the king receive good news. Again, good news. Here it is. For the Lord has freed you this day from the hand of all those who rose up against you. Then the king said to the Cushite, is it well with the young man Absalom? Like, hey, he didn't tell me, you tell me. Well, tell me how Absalom is. That's all I want to know is what is the deal with Absalom? Is he alive? Is he dead? How is he? And the Cushite answered in a very tactful and poetic way, may the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up against you for evil be like that young man, a.k.a. your son's dead, right? We hope that everybody that rises up against you is thwarted and fails, and that is what happened to Absalom. Not good news, king. Instead of just saying, yeah, he's dead, he poetically says that. And David knew right away, verse 33, he knew what he meant. It said, then the king trembled and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And this is what he said as he walked, my son, Absalom, my son, Absalom. If only I had died instead of you, Absalom, my son, my son. So David here is rightly stricken with grief. His son is dead. Even though this is like David right now is in one of those rock and hard place situations. You know, when you're stuck in between two situations, you're like, man, I can't win either way, right? One side is it's his son. The other side, it's his son who wants to kill him. Like, there's no winning. This is a lose-lose situation for David. And so he was acting, I will say, we'll see here in just a minute, he was acting like a very poor leader, like a political leader, but he was acting like a loving father, right, who just lost his son, somewhat in a bad, again, stuck between a rock and a hard place. David here says something that is pretty beautiful. If only I had died instead of you, which, if you think about that, gives off some pretty strong messianic vibes, right? That's exactly what God did for us. As our Father, he said, you know what? I'm going to die for you. He sent Jesus to die on our behalf. And so David is saying, I think most fathers would say the same thing, right? If my son was in trouble, I would take a bullet for my son, right? And that's, I think, what most fathers would do. I see you, buddy, back there. I'd take a bullet for you. Yep, wipe away those tears. I got you. That's what fathers are supposed to do. And so David here is like, man, I wish I would have died. But David also, he kind of made his son into this monster that he is by not ever correcting him and not holding him accountable and just being not good father. So though he was acting like a loving father here, it's like, David, where were you the 40 years before when this guy was turning into a monster? But I digress. Chapter 19. Here we go. Then it was reported to Joab, behold, the king is weeping, and he mourns for Absalom. So the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people, because the people heard it, said that day, the king is mourning over his son. And so victory turned to mourning. God does the opposite for us. He turns our weeping and our mourning into rejoicing, into victory, right? Our bad situations, he turns and redeems into good situations. Here, David did the opposite. It was a good situation, and he's like, nope, this is bad, and everyone couldn't celebrate. And so this next sentence, if you don't have the NASB 2020, this sentence isn't as cool. This sentence only, there's a word that shows, I'm just going to read it. Here we go. Verse 3. If I mess up on this word, anyway. The people entered the city surreptitiously that day, just as people who are humiliated surreptitiously flee in battle. Literally, this is the only translation that says surreptitiously. I'm like, what does that even mean? I had to look it up. It just means secretly or yeah. I think what happened here was the NASB guys, when they were revising the book back in 2020, one of them was nerding out and watched the spelling bee the night before, and one of the words was surreptitiously, and they were going together, and the guy's like, oh, hey, I got a great word. And they're all nerding out, yeah, let's put that in. What is surreptitiously? All I know is that's how I like to eat my pancakes, but that's about all I know. Surreptitiously. I surreptitiously ate my pancakes. Can you use that word in a sentence? Yes, I can. Anyway, they secretly and discreetly snuck into the town. They left with their heads down. Essentially, this was a dishonorable thing. Like what should have been a moment of victory turned out to be a moment of not victory. And this is bad. And it says this, and the king covered his face and cried with a loud voice, my son Absalom, Absalom, my son, my son. Then Joab came into the house to the king and said, today you have shamed all your servants who have saved your life today, and the lives of your sons and daughters, and the lives of your wives, and the lives of your concubines, by loving those who hate you, and by hating those who love you. For you have revealed today that commanders and servants are nothing to you. For I know today that if Absalom were alive and all of us were dead today, then it would be right as far as you are concerned. Now therefore arise and go out and speak kindly to your servants. For I swear by the Lord, if you do not go out, no man will stay the night with you. And this will be worse for you than all the misfortune that has happened to you from your youth until now. Punch to the gut, right? Essentially, he slaps him across the face and says, David, snap out of it. What are you doing? Do you not just realize that thousands of men just put their life on the line to protect you? They left the city of Jerusalem and fled with you and showed you loyalty, and now you are dishonoring them by crying over the man who was trying to kill you, who they were fighting against. Like, snap out of it. He said, essentially, hey, if you're not going to show any gratitude to those guys, they're not going to stick around. They're all going to be fed up with you and like, this is the last time I follow David anywhere. Like, see what it gets me, and they're going to leave. I will say this, a little gratitude goes a long way. A lot of gratitude goes a very long way, right? You should be thanking those in your life, those people in your life that are helping you and fighting for you. We should be very grateful for those people. And I will say that if we lack if we do not show gratitude to those people, we can't be surprised when they're not around much longer, right? We're looking around, where's all my friends? Well, you weren't grateful for those people. You didn't appreciate those people. And so they didn't, I mean, they might still stick around, but you can't be surprised if they don't. I'll just say that, especially in this situation, people that are willing to die for you, and then you're crying over someone that was trying to kill you. Joab, very right thing he said there. And I think he was absolutely in the right of saying, David, snap out of it, because this is not a good look for you. I know you just lost your son, but you need to get your head in the game, because all of these men are looking to you, and you are being a bad leader. So good leader, bad leader, good leader, bad leader. That's David. So verse 8. So David got up and sat at the gate. I don't know if he did it willingly or begrudgingly or whatever, but it says he did it. He got up, sat at the gate, and when they told all the people, saying, behold, the king is sitting at the gate. Then all the people came before the king. Now Israel had fled, each to his tent, and all the people were quarreling throughout the tribes of Israel, saying, the king rescued us from the hands of our enemies and saved us from the hands of the Philistines. But now he has fled out of the land of Absalom. However, Absalom, whom we anointed over us, has died in battle. Now then, why are you still silent about bringing back the king, or bringing the king back? So essentially they're saying here, hey, we kind of abandoned David and he's back, but no one's making a move to say, hey, David, welcome back. We're sorry. And so they're essentially saying, hey, we probably should go make things right, because the guy that we anointed is dead and we don't have a leader, and David's actually our leader. So anyway, interesting. Check this out. Then David sent word to Zadok and Abiathar. These are the two priests that he sent to Jerusalem. The priests, saying, speak to the elders of Judah, saying, why are you the last to bring the king back to his house, since the word of Israel has come to the king, even to his house? You are my brothers. He's talking to the whole nation of Israel here, to Israelites. David is the king of the Israelites. He is one of them. You are my brothers. You are you are my bone and my flesh. Then why should you be the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? May God do so to me, and more so, if I will not be, if you will not be commander of the army for me continually in place of Joab. This is pretty neat. David here is not forcing himself back into his life or into their lives. He's not forcing himself as king. He could. He has all right. He just defeated the leader. There was a great defeat of Israel, and he is poised to come in and just force himself, but he's not. In many ways, this is, again, very similar to Jesus. Jesus does not force himself upon us. He gives us, he's standing at the door knocking, and we have to open it up. David here is saying, hey, I'm here. I'm waiting. All you got to do is just let me in. I'll come back as your king. You just got to ask. And Jesus is saying the same thing. Hey, I'll be your king. You just got to ask. I'm out here waiting. Jesus is a gentleman. I like Frank Turek. He often says that Jesus is a gentleman. He does not force himself upon us. And he won't force anyone into heaven. It is something that we have to ask for. We have to go to. He's freely given us this gift. We have to accept it. Now, I will say that we were told in 2 Samuel 17:25 that Amasa was Joab's cousin. And Absalom had put Amasa in charge of his own army. And it seems, though, that David is making a gesture of good faith by placing Amasa as commander instead of Joab. Probably wanted to replace Joab. Again, this is the second time that Joab has defied David and killed somebody that he wasn't supposed to. David already tried to replace Joab once, and he made this contest where whoever could capture Jerusalem, he would name commander. He's like, this will do it. This will get Joab out. And then Joab doesn't. He's like, darn, I guess it's Joab, you're still a guy. And yeah, so here he's like, another opportunity. Amasa, you're the guy. I don't know if he actually does. Stay tuned. We'll find out. But verse 14. So he turned the hearts of all the men of Judah as one man. Again, David didn't force. He persuaded and turned the hearts. He won the hearts of them by not forcing himself upon them. Similar to what Absalom did by telling everybody what they wanted to hear, David didn't do it in a devious way or deceitful way. He did it in a honest and good way of, hey, I'll be your king if you'll have me back. And they're like, that's the kind of king we want. So yeah, come back. So they sent word to the king saying, return, you and all your servants. The king then returned and came as far as the Jordan, and the men of Judah came to Gilgal in order to go and meet the king, to escort the king across the Jordan. Then we're going to see three different guys here at the end. We've met them before, and their stories are going to come to a conclusion. We got Shimei, we got Ziba, and then Barzillai. And so here we go. Then Shimei, the son of Gera, the Benjaminite, who came from Bahurim, hurried and came down with the men of Judah to meet the king. And there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants with him, and they rushed to the Jordan before the king. Then they crossed shallow places repeatedly to bring over the king's household and to do whatever was good in his sight. So essentially they knew that they had messed up. They're like, ooh, this is the guy that we thought was a loser, and he's actually the winner. We should probably make things right. So I'm going to carry all of his stuff back and forth they go across the shallow places and doing what is good in the sight of the king. And then, so that was their actions, but then they followed up with words. First, Shimei. And Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king as he was about to cross the Jordan, and he said to the king, may my lord not consider me guilty, nor call to mind what your servant did wrong in the day when the Lord the king went out from Jerusalem, so that the king would take it to heart. For your servant knows that I have sinned, so behold, I have come today, the first of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my lord the king. And so he's essentially saying, hey, I messed up, I'm sorry. And he's admitting it. He's like, that wasn't cool. That was not a good thing that I did. I should not have cursed you. And then here's the response. Well, first, a response from one of David's commanders. Verse 21, but Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, responded, should Shimei not be put to death for this, the fact that he cursed the Lord's anointed? If you remember when Shimei was cursing David and throwing rocks, they're like, hey, let's kill this guy. And David's like, nope, I deserve it. Let him do it. If God sees it fit, then I'll be delivered from this, and if not, then the curses will succeed. But I deserve this. This is my fault. Let him do it. And so he's back at it again. He's like, "Hey, the curses didn't work. Can we kill him now?" And David says this. Then David said, "What is there between you and me, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should be an adversary to me today?" Essentially, like, "Hey, get behind me, Satan." Kind of. He's saying, this is none of your business. Get out of here. Don't give me bad advice. Should anyone be put to death in Israel today? We just had enough people die. We don't need another person to die. For do I not know that I am king over Israel today? So the king said to Shimei, "You shall not die." The king also swore to him. He's like, "Hey, I swear that you will not die. We don't need any more people to die." There's two things here that I want to point out. One, David knew that he was not innocent and that he was deserving of those curses, so he took them willingly. And then he didn't seek revenge for these curses that he deserved. He just let it happen, and he's like, "No, I deserve that," and he was good. He's apologizing, but I still deserved it. Two, David was not insecure in who he was. It said, he said in verse 22, he said, "Am I not king over Israel today?" He's like, "I'm the king. I know who I am. I don't have to worry about this." I will say this. People who are insecure are the ones who get offended easiest. If you are secure in who you are, people's words about you won't bother you. Again, people who are insecure are the ones who get offended easiest. I like to say this. People's words about you fall into one of two categories. One, if they're untrue. And if they're false, then why let them bother you, right? Your character, your words, and your actions will show what is true. False accusations shouldn't hold any water. And so if someone came to me and said, "Brad, you're a violent person and you punch people in the face all the time," and I'm like, what? And then people hear that and they're like, "Oh, Brad's violent and punches people in the face all the time." But then they watch me and they say, "I've never seen Brad act violently or punch anyone in the face. That must be untrue." Monica? Verified. Yes. Right? And so you can understand that that's false, right? And so it shouldn't hold water. And so I'm not going to let it bother me. It's a lie. It's not true. I'm not going to let like a water off a duck's back. I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. It's not true. Now, the other one is if it's true. And if it's true and it's something that we can't change or shouldn't change, then why let it bother you? I was a teacher. Kids would make fun of me for being bald. I don't care. I'm bald. Who cares? I'm married to a beautiful woman who thinks I'm handsome. I don't care if I'm bald, right? It doesn't bother me. I'm not going to take it to heart. I'm not going to get all offended like, "Oh, I wish I could grow." No, who cares? Just embrace it. Be who you are. But two, if it's true and it is something that you can change and should change, then take that advice and change and thank the person for pointing out a character flaw or a shortcoming, right? That is a good thing to do. And so I will end with this or just say this. Ultimately, our identity should be found in Christ and who he is and what he has done for us, right? So all of these other things shouldn't bother us. If it's untrue, your character should define the truth. And if it is true, either you can't change it, so don't worry about it, or you can change it and do something about it, right? But ultimately, if we are acting according to the Spirit and demonstrating the fruit of the Spirit and living a Christ-like life, all these accusations shouldn't bother us. We should not be offended. We should be secure in who we are, just like David here is like, "Hey, I'm the king. This guy cursing me, like I know I did the wrong thing and I'm changing. I've learned from these true things that he's saying and I'm not going to be that guy anymore." At least that's the hope. All right, moving on. 24. Then Mephibosheth, the grandson of Saul, came down to meet the king. But he had neither tended his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes since the day the king departed until the day he came home. In the words of the King James, he stinketh. He had not groomed himself. He let himself go, you could say. And so he's kind of looking like a hot mess, but he doesn't care. Verse 25, "And it was when he came to Jerusalem to meet the king that the king said to him, 'Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth?' So he said, 'My lord the king, my servant,'" which is Ziba, "'betrayed me, for your servant,'" Mephibosheth, "'said, I will saddle the donkey for myself so that I may ride on it and go with the king, since your servant cannot walk. Furthermore, he," Ziba, has slandered your servant to my lord the king. But my lord the king is like the angel of God. Oh, here comes the flattery. Therefore, do what is good in your sight. For all my father's household was only people worthy of death to my lord the king. Yet you placed your servant, that is Mephibosheth, among those who ate at your own table. So what right do I still have that I should complain any more to the king? So essentially he's saying, hey, Ziba lied. I meant to come, and then he tricked me. He fooled you. The things that he told you I said, I did not say. And yeah, you're a good guy, and I am like indebted to you forever, essentially is what he's saying. He's saying I was worthy of death. Me and all my people were worthy of death. And so the king, 29, the king said to him, why do you still speak of your affairs? Have I decided you and Ziba shall divide the land? And Mephibosheth said to the king, let him even take it all. He can have it all. I don't even care. Since my lord the king has come safely to his own house. He's like, I don't care about the stuff. I'm just glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're back. Maybe he was thinking that he would have been pretty poorly off or bad off with Absalom in charge, and he's just happy David's back. I don't know. But if you remember, in chapter 9 of 2 Samuel, David did spare Mephibosheth. Most kings would have killed any descendant of the former king to prevent an uprising from the former king's house. However, because of another man's actions, Jonathan, the Mephibosheth's father, because of that man's actions, the king decided to spare this man. Which reminds me of something. We all are deserving of death due to our ancestors, right? But the king spared us because of one man's actions. Now we get to eat at the king's table for all of eternity if we accept his offer and join him, right? The same thing. In verse 28, he said, I was worthy of death, but you spared me, and I'm just happy to have you, right? This gives off pretty strong Ephesians 2 vibes of we were dead in our transactions, utterly helpless, but God, who is rich in mercy, saved us by grace. It's not anything that we can do, everything that Jesus did. Because of Jonathan and his good character and his good actions, David found favor. Similarly, because of Jesus and what he did on the cross and taking our sin and taking our shame, we now stand right in front of God, and we have been pardoned and forgiven. The debt has been paid, and we can again join God at his table in heaven for all of eternity. That's pretty sweet. And so don't hold on to the stuff, right? Just be grateful for the king, just like Mephibosheth. 31. Now Barzillai, the Gileadite, had come down from Rogelim, and he went on to the Jordan with the king to escort him over the Jordan. If you remember, this guy had, well, actually it'll tell you in a second, but he had helped him and aided him when David was hiding and fleeing from Absalom. Verse 32, Barzillai was very old, 80 years old. Dude was old. And he had provided the king food while he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very great or very wealthy man. So the king said to Barzillai, you cross over with me, and I will provide you food in Jerusalem. Hey, you helped me, now I'm going to help you. Now that I've been restored, you come with me and I'll take care of you. But, verse 34, Barzillai said to the king, how long do I still have to live that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Can I distinguish between good and bad? Can your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Or can I hear the voice of men and women singing? Why then should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king? Essentially here he's saying, when he says, can I distinguish between good and bad? It's not like he's lost his moral compass and he can't decipher between good and evil. It's like all my senses, my 5 senses of seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and feeling, those are all dulled. I'm old, and all those pleasantries are going to be wasted on me. I just want to stay at home is what he's about to say. But he's like, I'm old. I don't care about that stuff. Just let me stay at home. It says this. Your servant, verse 36, your servant would merely cross over the Jordan with the king. So why should the king compensate me with this reward? Essentially, he's like, I'll cross over and then I'll die. That's basically what he's saying, I think. Please let your servant return so that I may die in my own city near the grave of my father and my mother. However, here is your servant Chinham, let him cross over with my lord the king and do for him what is good in your sight. A lot of people think that Chimham might be Barzillai's son, or at least it's somebody who he definitely favors and likes, and he's like, hey, take that blessing and give it to this younger guy who can actually appreciate it. And so there you go. And the king answered, Chimham shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what is good in your sight, and whatever you require of me I will do for you. All the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed too. Then the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and Barzillai returned to his place. Now, verse 40. Now the king went to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him, and all the people of Judah had also half of the people of Israel accompanied the king. And behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, why have your brothers, the men of Judah, abducted you and brought the king and his household and all of David's men with him over the Jordan? Then all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is a close relative of us. Why then are you angry about this matter? Have we eaten at all at the king's expense, or has anything been taken for us? But the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, we have 10 parts in the king. Therefore, or essentially, we have 10 times as many people. There's 10 tribes of Judah or of Israel, and we are owed just as much. Like, we should be more prominent, essentially. It says, therefore, we should have more claim on David than you. It's like, why do you guys get the whole claim? We should split it, essentially is what they're saying. Why then did you treat us with contempt? Was it not our advice first to bring back our king? Yet the words of the men of Judah were harsher than the words of the men of Israel. That's the end of the chapter. Now, let me explain really quick here. This is just some kind of internal bickering between it's kind of like the disciples arguing who's the greatest. That's what it reminds me of. But essentially, they're like, no, we're the favorite tribe. No, we're the favorite. We should all be. Anyway, I will tell you that we will see in the future, in Solomon's time, that Judah and Israel have issues, and that is why the kingdom then splits, and you have the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. This is one of the start of that conflict, that internal rift that will tear the kingdom in half. Instead of mending this and David stepping in or someone stepping in and being like, hey guys, we're all family here, let's not fight, this is silly. Instead, it just kind of seems to fester, and in Solomon's time, you'll see that the kingdom does split with Judah and Israel. But that was the end of the chapter. Let me give you 3 takeaways, just reminders of things we talked about. 1, going back to leadership, a good leader listens to the advice of the people around them. David did this when his men told him to stay back. I'll just say this, are we listening to the advice of people around us, or do we think we know it all, right? Hopefully we're surrounding ourselves with wise people and taking their counsel and not just saying, nope, I know what to do, right? And not just surrounding ourselves with yes men either. We need to be surrounding ourselves with people who will hold us accountable and give us good advice. 2, insecure people are people who get offended easiest, are the people who get offended easiest. I'll just ask you this question. Do you get offended easily? If so, you're probably insecure, right? You need to find your security, and the best way to be secure is in Christ, right? Jesus died on the cross for you. He took your sin, he took your shame, and the book of Colossians and so many of the other books talk about how we can be found in him. Our identity needs to be in Christ. And if our identity is in Christ, then who can stand against us? Nothing can separate us from that, and nothing is going to hurt us in that. And so our identity should be secure, and we should be unoffendable, right? Be unoffendable, be secure in Christ and in who you are and in who he has made you to be. Walk that out. Walk out your calling. And then 3, like Mephibosheth, we have been saved and redeemed by the King. Are you living a life that demonstrates that fact? Right? Mephibosheth showed it and proved it by saying, hey, I don't care about that stuff. I'm just glad that you're there. Are we living a life that is showing adoration and respect and gratitude towards our King, right? Can you say, I don't care about this stuff. I just want to live for you, King Jesus? I hope you can.